Autumn Brown, a queer science fiction writer, a theologian, a mother of dragons, and a healing justice facilitator for social movements. I'm scrapping all of that.
I'm like, bitch, you're the front woman of Autumn the band. Like, what the fuck? Get it together. I know you're being a mom right now, but god damn.
No, literally, today, Autumn Brown is a very tired mom of a feverish child. That's who I am today, and all you need to know about me today is that I am parenting hardcore. Happy to be here.
Oh, you're such an amazing mommy. You really are.
I hate it when my kids are sick.
I hate it when your kids are sick too. But I'm sure in a very different way, like in a distance way where I'm like, that's so sad.
It's so sad.
It's so sad.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
think we're going to have to find a way
to
share this with our folks on our official page because it's going to become such a reference point. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Don't worry about it. You'll see. Deep listeners, you'll get it.
You'll get it.
When the time comes. Don't worry about it. Anyone else. Okay. I'm Adrienne Marie Brown. A luscious, toothless woman. So the main thing to know about me coming into this call today is that since the last time we recorded, I have gone through a dental catastrophe where something that happened in my childhood, which was handled with a root canal, turned into a toxic environment over the summer after an encounter with a bagel. Chewy bagel.
And then a baby.
And then one of my very favorite children in the world who always gets excited and jumps directly upward when she sees me. And that happened, but the trajectory of her forehead to my tooth was just like a direct rocket. It was just like if someone sent a rocket directly at that one tooth. So, and it was one of those very sweet moments where I'm like, I don't want to upset this baby who I love so much or make her feel in any way. And it also hurt so bad that I couldn't keep it together. So it's one of those things where I was like, no, I'm fine. No, I'm good. I'm fine. You know,
I'm gonna go to the bathroom and cry.
Yes, I'll be right back. I really thought it was falling out in that moment. But no, I traveled. I spent 2 more months in that fractured tooth state. And then my tooth got extracted. And now I don't have it. So I've got this little flipper in. We'll see how it feels to record with this for a little while. But I may end up taking it out and you'll get the full lisp effect, which is
so adorable.
I also, I've always had a strong feeling for people with serious like dental gaps and like missing teeth. I just like, I don't know. There's something about it that seems very human and very beautiful. And I love how a lisp sounds anyway. So I'm quite enjoying this little part, but I did realize I was like, oh, I didn't know it changes the way you sound to recover, or like now I'm growing a bone in my face, which also feels cool. But I didn't know, how long this process would take and that I would be recording. And I definitely sound different. And everyone has commented on that. So I'm here. I'm queer. And I've got less teeth.
And this is how to survive. This is how to survive the end of the world.
Our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, rigor, and curiosity.
As a reminder, we have no ads. We are fully listener supported.
Yep. So join our Patreon on.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, can I say my part? No, okay. So join our Patreon for exclusive content. And also, if you want to contribute to this tooth situation, because guess what? DEI funding got cut. Everything got cut, y'all. It's not a game out here trying to get paid. Trying to get some teeth in your face. Anyway, no, there's so many more important things to give to. But if you have like extra read all about it kind of money, you can make a donation, especially for my tooth. Anyway, what were you going to say, sister?
I was going to say that our Patreon is part of why we're coming in with this special episode on the main feed today.
Oh, yeah.
We are doing a special thing where, for those of you who are patrons, you know this. For those of you who aren't patrons, you don't. That our patrons get access to these special episodes called Ask Us Anythings.
Yes.
And they get to ask the questions that we then answer in those special episodes. But what we decided to do today is we're going to give you an episode that would typically be for patrons only, where you get to hear what it's like when we answer questions to patrons. And then if you really like it, you can go sign up on our Patreon, become a patron, and then you can get the second half of this episode. So you get to hear the first half right now, and then you'll see what it's like. It's awesome.
You know, I think that people should know too that to join Patreon.
Yeah, $6 is like the minimum level of giving, I think.
I just feel like I'm very pleased that we can say that this is something that is very affordable and it really helps us. And then you get access to this stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I just want to say for our listeners also that this is not just like you with the feverish kid and me down the tooth, down bad with the tooth, but it's also like we've been on break and we're not done with being on break. We're still like in a break mode, which is going to continue through the rest of this year in a way, because we both realize that we're writing books, like we're deep in, like up above our heads in book writing. And so we're going to do these Ask Us Anythings. And then we're going to bring you some mini podcast episodes that are just about writing and about craft and about like where we are with our projects and things like that.
Creative practices.
Just creative practices, because the next season, we do want to talk about art and being political artists, being artists of our time. But we're like, we can't get into this season yet because we're being artists of our time, like literally right now, like we're
right now
doing it. Right now. So just want to give folks the heads up too. That's like, we're dusty, we're rusty, we're a little bit crusty, but we're here. We love you. And like all of those things are because we're working really hard at the missions that we were given to do on this earth. And we're going to share with you about those. And then in the beginning of the next year is when we'll come back with some interviews and some conversations with other artists that we really love and who we feel are shaping this world.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really different kind of season, but a really dope kind of season. I think it's gonna be so like.
Too. So, do you want me to ask the first question or read the first question?
Sure.
And this is from one of our beloved survivors. It says, "Hi, thank you for this opportunity. It seems lately that my favorite thought leaders, including you two, are leaning more towards artistic expression. Oh, ding, ding, ding. Are you seeing this trend in your circles? If so, what do you think that is about? Of course, more art is awesome. I also like to hear people talk through what is on their heart, body, and mind so that I can keep growing in those ways. And which idea, people, or groups are you drawn to these days?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny to be receiving this question because literally this is part of why we are bringing the focus that we're bringing to the next season.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so many ways to answer this question. The question of like, is there a trend of more and more thought leaders turning towards art? I don't know. That part I can't speak to. You probably have a better sense of that than I do. But I would say for me, I know I spoke to this a few times over the last couple of years, but I really think that what I'm noticing more and more is that when we're fighting for our liberation, we're not just fighting for the ability to live, but we're also fighting for the ability to actually be people who get to like create, be connected to purpose, be fully alive.
Yes.
And I think that like the one thing for sure that all humans are made to do, not meant to do, but just made to do is make art. That is, it is very much built into how we exist. Someone was just talking to me yesterday about the fact that there's like now like science or documented evidence that music predates language. You know, that like,
yeah,
of course it does. But it's like, and it's beautiful to imagine like, you know, pre-humans like sitting around 50,000 years ago, like singing, harmonizing with one another as the way that they were communicating. Yeah. Because to me, when you say music predates language, what that really means is music is our first language. You know what I mean? It's
exactly.
like, that's what that means, right? It's like language comes from music, right? And comes from other forms of creative expression that humans have always engaged in order to make sense of the world. Beautiful. And so for me, I think if there is a trend of people going either back to art or going forward into artistic practice, I think it's about a recognition that that is the thing that gives us the ability to be most in touch with our actual humanity.
Yes.
And that's actually the thing that, like, what is all of this freedom work in service of? It's being able to actually be fully human on this earth, I think.
That's right. I agree with everything you said. I think that's really beautiful. I think there's the things that I would add are, I think we've been in need of such deep comfort right now, and in need of being able to hear and feel each other. And art is one of the ways we cut through division and language and all these other ways to be like, do you all hear that sound, that song, that note? Do you all see the beauty of this painting? Do you see the beauty of this dance? Do you feel the the essence of this thing is, the poem is the only thing that can hold the essence of what we're feeling right now. I keep having that experience where I'm like, I can't imagine another conversation about any of this. Like, we understand it all. Right. And now it's time to feel it all and to kind of let go. In a way, I think that's been a part of what I've been up to, trying to let go of the way my mind wants to live this life and to drop into the way my body and my energy and my spirit and my connections, like live my life from that place. And art is the channel that I use to move down and into myself, where it's all of a sudden so clear that I'm like, oh, I know I'm unconditionally loved. And I know that what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. And I know who my people are. And then I know I'm meant to add to the creation, right? Like, I think right now we're in this political battleground where it feels like all we can do is hold on for dear life to structures that were never satisfying in the first place. And I think art is the place where I get to stay in touch with, like, I have a vision of something much greater and I'm supposed to help co-create it. I will say that idea people and the groups that I feel drawn to these days, that last little piece of the question, Janine Denovaish is a dear friend who I'm always like turning to for her ideas. And she's writing about digital colonization right now, and really like what role social media and the internet has on how we're feeling and how we're being, and like just how we're being enslaved right now. And it's just like blowing my mind and helping me truly stay off the internet more and more every day. Tressie McMillan Kodum is thinking about a lot of this stuff in AI and talking about that. Ta-Nehisi Coates has been doing some just very, some work that I think has a lot of integrity right now, as like a public thinker, again, who's not playing in the social media realm, but just doing their thinking. And then Huwaida Araf, who we had on the podcast a couple episodes ago, but she's one of the original Freedom Flotilla folks. And I'm just like blown away by the thinking of the Freedom Flotilla, the persistence, the bravery, the courage, the small is all emergent nature of that technology that they've been trying for so long now to get there. And we've gotten the closest ever, like that. And there's art, like it's like so many artists are on those boats.
Yeah,
and they are
totally.
Singing and writing songs and making art and weaving. And, as they go on this journey, which is in of itself a huge, massive act of this, both performance art piece, because it's like the whole world should be bringing supplies to Gaza. Like what they can bring on one of these little boats is nowhere near, touching into what's needed, but the spirit of it and what it means to Gaza to know that they're not just not forgotten, but that people are actively putting their bodies on the line to reach them. Like, to me, that's what great art does. And what, that's the I think we'll talk about this over the course of the season, is that line between art and action and theater. And I can't wait to be in some of those spaces, because I think sometimes the line gets drawn as if art, I have to do this inside myself, as if art is not important. I have to remind myself, like, art is a part of everything that I think works about being
Totally.
alive. So
yeah, totally.
What about you? Are there any folks that you want to uplift whose thinking is really helping you right now?
I mean, truly, the first group that came to mind was the Global Samud Flotilla,
Yeah.
and I mean, we're recording this just a day after it was documented that basically almost all of the 500 or so activists who were on the 40 plus ships were detained by the state of Israel, and
Yes.
I mean, what's cool in terms of this thing you were just describing of like, this is the closest that the flotillas have gotten.
Yeah.
Like just seeing the map of how far each flotilla has gotten, and that this one, what actually one of the boats like made it through the siege lines.
Yes.
And which, as people have been noting, like what that demonstrates is what the limits of the Israeli Navy actually are.
Yes.
And I think
there are some.
That there are limits, right?
Exactly.
There's actually, and that it's like, now we actually have a sense of like how many boats are needed.
And I don't know if you saw this, but because the folks were like, the Navy was off trying to intercept all the boats of the flotilla, the fishermen were able to fish. And so they brought in a massive haul of fish, which
amazing. I didn't see
cry
that
when I saw it, but I'm like, oh wow, there's a limit. And if we know there's a limit, there's a way. And if there's a way,
if we know there's a limit, we can overwhelm the limit.
Exactly.
And right. And I just think that those kinds of and you know, as despairing as the conditions currently are, it's just so important to remember those things, that like, you know, that tyranny and empire are fundamentally fragile, brittle structures, and that they have limits. And when they collapse very, very quickly. And so, you know, so I think it's like, we're still in that zone. And there's a question that someone else, one of our patrons asked, that hopefully we'll be able to get to at some point, around like, what do we do when it feels like all is lost? And I think I just want to really keep extending the vision of like, we're not there yet, actually. And we're still in the location where a lot of things could happen.
We are.
And I think that art, like one of the reasons why art is so beautiful and important, is that like artists are constantly, I mean, this is why you and I are both like so obsessed with science fiction in particular, is like science fiction and visionary fiction is constantly writing into the future of what is possible, and oftentimes predicting realities that have yet to come, and then they come true later. Like the internet itself was predicted by a science fiction writer. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just think that it's important for us to, you know, keep that in mind, that like anything could still happen, and art often is the thing that predicts what is possible.
Happen. Yeah. I think that, and you know, there was something else that I keep thinking about, which is like part of the reason I feel inspired to create right now is because I look at people who are in circumstances that are far more directly impacted than I am. And I see how creating is what's keeping them alive. There's this artist in Palestine. I'll try to find them so that we can link them in the page, but they do these music classes and voice classes with students. And it's just like making the most beautiful sounds. And I'm like, someone is doing that in Gaza every day. They're waking up and gathering who they can, where they can, to make songs together. And so then I, who am here in the empire that is causing so much harm, the least I can do is create something other than that here, like foment a different garden here. So,
yes.
All right. So that's our answer. You want to read the next one, sister?
I feel it feels related. The next question is Battlestar Galactica. Is it a perk for Patreon supporters, an episode, or, hear me out, the theme for an entire season? I mean, and I'll say, we've talked about this. We have definitely.
Write this, sister?
I did not write this. This came from an actual person who is amongst our listeners. And I will say, we've off and on over the years, we've definitely talked about like, how do we bring in not just our love of Battlestar Galactica, but how we both understand Battlestar Galactica and all of the lessons that it has for revolutionaries.
Oh, yes.
You know, and I think, you know, and Battlestar Galactica is not alone. It's certainly a very original body of work, but it's not alone in having a lot of material for us to work with. We've also talked about bringing in Andor in that way.
Yeah.
And so my answer to this this patron and to anyone else who's wondering about this is we're still figuring out how we bring in, and how do we record, or like what role does this kind of material play? Oftentimes I think we will we'll have an idea to do something and then we'll get derailed by like, actual conditions, people that we know we want to talk to in response to what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And I would love a Battlestar Galactica sub-project of the podcast that is like, I don't know if I've shared this with listeners before, but I actually go back and rewatch this show every few years of my life. Yeah. Like since it came out in the aught years, like I have rewatched it multiple times not just because I love it. I think it's the best television show that was ever made. But that's not the only reason why. I think it's actually also because it's like it has such intelligent things to say about how you survive apocalypse, about what it means to be a people in the aftermath of being genocided.
Yes.
Like about what it means to have to like turn towards your aggressor and figure out how to blend with them instead of, what I mean? It's just like, it's a fascinating show for so many reasons.
What it means to be human, what it means to be technology. I think I've watched it all the way through maybe 4 times. And the last episode I watch at least once a year. Like,
so gorgeous.
It's just every single time the last 10, 20 minutes of it, I'm crying the whole time. And I'm just like, I see it all. And now I understand everything,
unreal.
I get it. So that said, I don't know if I would want to do an entire season just on it. I think that that'd
be a lot.
It would be a lot. I mean, there's a way it could happen like on a year that I'm not writing something maybe, but I do think there might be a way in this, because we're talking about so much art this coming season, that we could have little pieces, little amuse-bouche, like little things where we're like, let's just go for it and talk about why Battlestar Galactica. Let's go for it and talk about why Andor. Let's go for it and talk about the art that really moves us to the point of repetition, like repetitive, taking it in over and over again, because it's, How to Survive is tucked in it. I just watched The Last of Us season 2 and I was like, there's something tucked into this. There's so much tucked into this. And I want to bring it to the light and talk about it with people. Because I also really believe in that art is a much more functional way to have some of the political conversations we need to have than anything else. So
totally.
Yeah, I think we'll make sure it's something that everyone can hear. Okay, here's my next question from our listeners.
I recently had my second baby and learned about Kimberly Ann Johnson's research on the cultural similarities around the world for nurturing birth givers in the period after birth. Johnson calls these practices the 5 universal postpartum needs. 1, extended rest. 2, nourishing food. 3, loving touch. 4, spiritual companionship. And 5, contact with nature. They feel so essential for all humans forever. How are you both doing with these 5 these days? Any musings on current daily practices or managing social media / news consumption would be hands in praise.
Hands in praise.
Hands in praise.
What a beautiful question.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that is a postpartum need for life. I think I'm doing pretty good. I keep saying all things considered. I think I'm doing pretty good. So I definitely feel like with spiritual companionship, I've been reaching new levels of feeling accompanied by spirit and obedient to spirit. And my channel just feels wide open. I'm in that book writing place where I'm just I'm available kind of at all hours for spirit to be with me, and I'm seeing spirit everywhere. So that feels really intact and really present and really good. And I start my day by going and sitting out on my back porch and listening to the lake and kind of seeing which birds are around and just what's the weather like? How's the season feeling? And I think that's my morning meditation basically, is just going and like getting myself in the world a little bit. So spiritual companionship and contact with nature are to me kind of one piece of my life.
Yeah.
That go together. Nourishing food, I could do better. I just had a come to Jesus moment where I was like, I got a credit card bill and I was like, what's happening? Who's stealing my money? And then I was like, DoorDash.
Oh,
DoorDash.
no.
Yeah, it's like, it's, I think everyone is like, if you point to like, where is the place where trying to live through all these crises is showing up in your life? It's like, I forgot how to cook, or that I can cook. Like,
Right.
it's just
Totally.
like, where can I pick up something that someone made for me, or how can I get that delivered to my house? So that said, I make good nourishing choices within what I, the ways that I can within that. But my sweetie and I just are like making a commitment to like supporting each other and coming back to cooking more. Loving touch, I'm getting a lot of that. Like, I've really been focused on cuddling lately and just being like very open. Like, when I see my friends, when I see my loved ones, when I see my love sweetheart, when I see my nibblings, just being like, maximize the hug, maximize the being physically with. Um, and then extended rest is the hardest part for me right now. And the relationship between social media and extended rest is direct. So, like, if I can manage to really keep a good limit on what I'm taking in through social media, again, sourcing my news from other spaces so that I still know what's going on in the world, but no scrolling at night. We've been doing a lot of phone downtime. Like, after about 9 o'clock, it's like time to have our phones down.
Smart.
I'm not quite where you are, sister, where you're like screen free. I'm like, I still need a screen, but it's just not the one in my hand.
Right. That's a great move.
Yeah, I'm just like, I like to watch movies. I like to watch TV. I'm reading a lot of books these days. Trying to read stuff that's related to the work. So yeah, that I do think I'm doing okay. But I also, where I'm not doing okay, it feels like an acceptable cost for living through this time as well. So I'm like, I'm doing my best. And it's also like, I think some insomnia makes sense for a time like this. I think, some over ordering, or,
right.
Questioning God. I think all of that.
Totally. All of it makes sense.
Yeah. What about you, sister?
Wow. Well, it's funny. I was just saying I was teaching a class this morning, and I was saying to my students how
Oh, yeah, you're teaching.
I was like, oh my God, I have an amazing cohort of students that I'm working with. But I was telling them, I was saying how we're all tired. And then I was like, well, I was like, let me not lie on myself. Actually, I have teenagers, which means I actually get enough sleep. I'm not, which is not the same as extended rest, but I will say for everyone out there who's like underslept because you're parenting babies and toddlers, it does get better when your kids start to want to sleep. But I echo what you said about the relationship between extended rest and social media, because back in August, when I had a week of vacation, I also went off social media completely for that week. And it was like, yeah, I could just feel that my brain was just operating so differently because of not being online. And, and I wish, even with our regular screen-free practices, I can really feel how, and my relationship to social media continues to just shift more and more further away. But I can just really feel how not restful it is to be engaged in any of those platforms. I'll say with spiritual companionship, the way that that's really showing up in my life is through my primary love relationship that we really spiritually companioning one another, and
I love that.
regularly pray together and pray for one another. We often ask for one another to like pray for us related to things that are happening. And I just noticed that being in a love relationship with someone where we have a shared spiritual practice has been just really, really powerful and healing for me, and helping me to kind of be like, oh, right. Like this is, it's one thing to have like spiritual community, and it's another thing to have it, to invite it so deeply into your one-to-one relationships and be like, we are doing spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Right. And, and then that extends, I think, into the food and touch piece, because to me, it's like when you're building kind of like a spiritually grounded life with your intimate loved ones, then it means that like touch and mealtime also kind of start to get augmented and changed. I think that that's the place that I've noticed. I am living in my contact with nature is so different now because of the fact that I live in a city. And you've heard me talk about this, and I don't know how much I've shared with listeners about this, but like truly like the main thing that I mourn about the life that I had before my divorce is the level of just continuous contact with nature that I had because I lived in the woods. And so I would say that that's the piece. It's the piece that I feel like I struggle the most with, is like and there are things that I feel attuned to every day. Like at this time of year, every morning, I wake up to a cacophony of bird sound on one side of my house, specifically the side of my house that's like covered in vines. And it's and it's very seasonal and very specific. And so like, there are things that I'm attuned to that are about the specific ways that I can feel a part of nature in the current life that I have. And I definitely feel a profound sense of like, man, there's a lot of pavement.
Much pavement.
There's so much pavement.
So much pavement.
I really appreciate this listener's question and the opportunity to really like be with and I want to read them again just for listeners, that as a place to check in, the 5 things to check in with yourself about, the 5 universal postpartum needs. And I love extending that metaphor to like all of us right now, of like, we're all postpartum of something: extended rest, nourishing food, loving touch, spiritual companionship, and contact with nature. So beautiful.
Can I add one thing? My sweetie and I have started meditating together in the evenings.
Ooh, nice.
And it is a game changer for sleep. Like there's a way that it's like, like sit down and let your system settle down. And I don't know, for me, there's a humility aspect to it. It's like, just acknowledge that like you didn't save the world today. Like I sit there and I'm just like, you did everything you could today.
Right.
And now you're going to go sleep. And then tomorrow you're going to keep going. Like it's not over. Nothing is done but the day.
Beautiful.
Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so smart. Yeah. And meditating before bed is like, I mean, it's really one of the best things that you can do to assisting your sleep.
Yeah.
I guess we have to leave it there. But for our listeners who are feeling super excited about the conversation that we're having, we're going to continue the conversation in a recording that's just going to be available to patrons. So you can go on over to Patreon and sign up to support us, and then you'll be able to hear part 2 of our conversation.
Thank you, sister. And thank you to our listeners who sent in questions. We're going to try to do this more and more often because we really recognize like the brilliance of our listeners, and we want to be in more conversation with y'all.
Thanks for listening to our show. We're on Instagram at End of the World PC.
And barely there. We can't, that's not where we live. We live in our lives in real life.
We live in our lives.
Okay. But you can make a sustaining donation to our show by visiting our page at patreon.com/endoftheworldshow. If you become a patron, or if you're one already, you get our show inside a show, Top Culture, every Monday after we release a new Friday episode.
Another incredible thing you can do to help our show sustain itself is to write us a review on Apple Podcasts if you're an iPhone person. This helps people looking for good new content to find us. Thank you.
And like, if you've been listening to the show for like 5 years and you've never written a review on Apple Podcasts, like, what are you doing? Just go over there right now and just like write something nice about us. Anyway, How to Survive the End of the World is produced and edited by the incomparable Zach Rosen. Transcripts are in our show notes and on our website at endoftheworldshow.o to the R to the G.
Music for today's show comes from Autumn, the band.
Well,
and Tunde Olaniran.
Autumn, the band, really is my favorite band. Aww. All right. See y'all.